Sorry about that. I forgot to get the camera. Good morning. And we are live. Okay, and all right. Coming to you live from beautiful downtown Crestline in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's Inland Empire on the day after Independence Day. It's July 5, 2023. I was up late last night on YouTube Live for a special Independence Day podcast, and I was still awake into the early morning hours. I gotta check something real quick. Okay. Wow. So I'm kind of like, haven't had enough sleep, but my alarm went off. The only alarm I regularly set to come on live on Wednesday mornings. Oh, wow. I'm having cream of wheat for breakfast. It's actually farina. It's the same thing. Courtesy of the local food bank. According to many of the nutrition experts, you shouldn't eat grains. And farina or cream of wheat is whole grain wheat. But I've never had a problem with it. It might make me gain weight, but in my case, that's a good thing. They claim that grains are inflammatory. Well, hi, Oswald. You're sleep deprived too. You were with me last night. And Et Sequentia is here. Okay, let's type in hi, Oswald and Et Sequentia. Wow. We had a good long talk. I've learned that I will not be at Comic Con in San Diego. After all, I thought I was going, but my transportation and lodging fell through. Oswald just made coffee. Yeah, I got my coffee and my tea and my water. Coffee, tea, water, and a bowl of cream of wheat. And of course, my Camel filters. I got cream of wheat with some whole milk and brown sugar. Brown sugar has molasses in it. It isn't as refined as white sugar. Oh, Cosmic Con. Is that the one back in, what is it, Ohio? I've been to 3 conventions in my life. Well, unless you count a Star Trek convention where I took my son when he was young. There was the convention I went to with Philip K. Dick shortly before we got married. And then 2 conventions in Fort Morgan where Phil is buried. Oh, Oswald says Cosmic Con might exist, but he's never heard of it. Either astrology or space exploration convention. I think there is a Cosmic Con. I get emails about conventions. They're always like in Ohio or Michigan or New Jersey. And I don't travel well, and I really can't afford to travel. If I could, I would take one of those riverboat cruises, either up north in Washington State or across the pond on a Viking cruise, where you see all these amazing ancient buildings that are still in use. And museums and stuff. Tora, you're a pest. Go eat. Well, I guess you did eat your cat food. I just gave you treats. There and say hi to your adoring fans. Oh, man. Look at that kitty cat. Yeah, rock my kitty on Great Granny's rocking chair. Yeah. Okay, hop down. Cat treats. Kitty catty treats. Yeah. Press here to seal. Uh-huh. Right, you bet. I hate those packages. Okay. So I'm half asleep because I've had 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I don't know about these nutrition experts. There's Dr. Ken Berry, and I can't remember the other one's names on YouTube. And then there's the crazy advice I got from a nutritionist. I told her I can't digest meat, so what did she do? 4 servings of meat every day. It's like, hello, I can't digest it. So on my own, and with advice from friends like you guys, I got betaine HCl with pepsin. It helps to increase your stomach acid so you can digest protein. And it turns out meat is actually around 30% protein, not 100 by any means. Well, Jordan Peterson has an all meat diet. I don't know what to think of Jordan Peterson. Sometimes he seems to make sense, and sometimes he seems completely off the wall. But there's this thing called a carnivore diet, eat nothing but meat. And then there's a keto diet where it's mostly meat, but you eat vegetables that are not starchy. Problem with both of them is they help you lose weight. I don't need to lose weight. I need to gain weight or I'm going to die of starvation with a full stomach. It's serious. But yeah, I need starchy things. Carbs put weight on you. And I'm really low on both fat and muscle. Oswald says he's just a Joseph Campbell ripoff for YouTube. He gave psychology lectures at the University I don't know what the infamous bill of C-16 is. Oh, hi, Dread Freeman. You guys are back. You didn't get any sleep either. We were up for 3 hours last night. This Independence Day special. Didn't talk much about Independence Day. K. Oswald says Bill C-16, that's Canada, yeah, was the Canadian bill to require the use of gender pronouns, which he publicly fought and which skyrocketed him, Jordan Peterson, to fame. So it's to enforce preferred pronoun. JP objected to it. I guess that's Jean Pierre. Is that Trudeau or his opposition? My problem with gender pronouns is I can't remember them. You know, I can remember he, she, and they, but they've made up some new ones, and I can't even tell you what they are because I don't remember. Hi, Niche. Niche is here. I'm waiting for Niche to put my interview up and send me a link so I can promote it. Oh, JP is Jordan Peterson. Oh, okay. He objected to gender pronouns. Well, good for him. Now, I don't fall in line with either side of great debates usually. For example, Roe v. Wade. It was actually about a right to privacy. The woman was required to get her husband's permission to have an abortion. She could get one, but she had to have his permission. And if the court had ruled on that issue, fine. But instead, it made it a federal law that the states could not change. But I'm still concerned about making it a state matter because, to my mind, a government that can ban abortion can also require it, and that's very dangerous. And it wasn't that long ago, around 100 years or a little more than that, when women who were considered inferior were sterilized surgically so they couldn't reproduce and make inferior babies. They called it eugenics. And that's what Planned Parenthood was all about. No brown babies, no black babies, no stupid babies. They just assumed that any mental challenges were automatically inherited from your parents and passed down to your children. Well, this is only one topic I'd like to discuss. So I find both sides of Roe v. Wade scary. But abortion has not been banned across the country. You might have to go to a different state. But even in the strictest states, if it's a matter of the mother's life or health, that's allowed. You just can't go, oh, I don't want to be pregnant. I figure it isn't up to me to tell another woman what decision to make. It isn't my call. And, you know, when consenting adults are concerned, I don't care who sleeps with you. If you want an unconventional marriage and you're both consenting adults, okay. I draw the line when you demand that my church perform the ceremony. But I don't, presume to banish people to hell or elevate others to heaven. That also is not my call. That's up to God. And but my church is really against such marriage. But if you happen to be in a same-sex marriage, you're still welcome in the church. We don't treat you any differently. We just don't perform the ceremony. It goes against our beliefs, but hey, we're all sinners. All have fallen short of the glory of God. The best of us is still a sinner. I mean, even if you didn't actually steal your neighbor's property or covet, or not covet, if you didn't sleep with your neighbor's husband or wife, but you wanted to, you coveted, that's a sin just to want it. Dreaded says, I've been reflecting on what I said about smoking, been trying to find. Well, I don't know. I'm not saying smoking is good for you. I don't recommend that anybody start smoking. But for me personally, I'm not quitting. Ordinarily, when it comes to things that other people are addicted to, like drugs and alcohol, even if I have a little bit of a withdrawal symptom, it's nothing I can't overcome in a day or two. It's not so with cigarettes and coffee. So you've been trying to find an old Mel Brooks film about a man who goes to see a short artsy film and talks through it all. And 71 years old, lady, I got a right to be loud. Yeah. Well, fortunately, I haven't gone deaf yet. Might not ever. But, okay, smoking killed my grandfather. He died of a heart attack. He was 88 years old. I kind of think it wasn't because he smoked. It was because he was old. And Granny who did not smoke lived to be 93, but that's simply the statistically, women of that generation lived 5 years longer than men. So it was not statistically significant for her to live 5 years longer. Now we do need more Mel Brooks at Sequentia. What passes for humor nowadays? Well, you can't really blame the comics. You can't make jokes about this group or that group or certain individuals. You'll get canceled. There was a Robin Williams comedy routine. If you dig deep enough, you can find it on YouTube. When he was younger, he was doing stand-up comedy, and he dressed as the flag and talked as if he were the flag of the United States. It was awesome. And he didn't bash any people or other countries. He just, you know, I can't even quote him. I can't remember. I should watch it again, but I remember he got down on his knees and said he was at half-mast. And he talked about all these exercise gurus. And he said, all I have to do is wave and furl and unfurl. Didn't have to do any of these crazy exercises to stay in good shape. Yeah, Robin Williams was one of a kind. I don't know whether he's still alive, but probably not. Cat hair in my eyes again. Amazing. Niece says he's been dead for some time now. Did he get Alzheimer's or something? I don't remember. I know Bruce Willis got Alzheimer's. Oh, suicide. That's right. But I think it was because he was losing his mind. It's vaguely familiar. A lot has happened in the past 8 years. Oh, hi, Witta. Good to see you. And Viken. We are now independent in the United States of, well, lately we seem to be the United States of China. I know on some other YouTube channels, they talk about politics all the time. But that doesn't mean they won't decide to give me a strike and take me off YouTube for a week. Oh, Biden officially announced that COVID was over. No more masks, no more lockdowns, no more mandates. Oh, Robin Williams had Parkinson's. Oh, poor man. My father's Aunt Betty had Parkinson's, and her husband was an asshole. Treated her very badly. I wish I could have done something about it, but I was a kid. The Bank of England weekend. Yeah, that's the Bank of England isn't even English, it's Rothschilds. And they are not Jews. They only say they're Jewish to get some benefit from it. They're descendants of Jacob's brother Esau. And I forget exactly when, I think 200 or 300 years BC, Israel conquered the Edomites and forced them to convert to Judaism. And they never forgot that. And they hate the Jews. Rothschilds were not persecuted by Hitler and the Nazis. They were funding him. So don't blame the Jews. Rothschilds are their own special kind of evil. Robin Williams' ex-wives fleeced him. Well, he was stupid enough to get married more than once. So was my husband. But he didn't get fleeced because he was too poor to be fleeced. Yeah, there's all kinds of theories about Robin Williams and the evil in Hollywood. But I don't want to get into that right now. Let's just say Hollywood, for the most part, is evil. Torah, quit. And do you know that Hollywood is pretty much abandoning California because it's so much cheaper and easier to get permits in other states? Torah, get out of my coffee. Here, you want some cream of wheat? I didn't think so. Keep your paws off my coffee. It's bad for cats. Give you a heart attack. That's the problem with nutrition advice, which was where I started. Eggs are bad for you. Eggs are good for you. Don't eat avocados, they're full of fat. Eat lots of avocados, they have good fat. Cats are all bad. They're drawn that way. What was that movie? Oh, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah. Well, Torah, you're cute. Yeah. Jessica, I'm not really bad. I was just drawn that way. Oh, okay. All right. Yes, you can have the cream of wheat. I'm an idiot. You wouldn't want it. Go ahead. See if I care. She put her paw in, pulled her paw out, and licked it. I think she likes it. Cats are carnivores. They're obligate carnivores. The expert said so. She said, I don't care. I like this shit. Okay. Let me see. That's how she eats her tuna fish, too. Once in a while, I give her people tuna in the can and sit out by the pawful. She's such a sweetie. So now, cooking oil is bad for you. Salad oil, especially canola and corn oils. You Deacon laughed when I talked about the gophers eating my prize plants. That wasn't funny. Tora says, but you're eating it, so it's got to be good. I don't care if it makes me feel bad. Well, I don't think cream of wheat will give her a heart murmur. And I'd like to know, they say that cats cannot taste sweet things. If that's so, then why do my cats prefer milk and cereal that has sugar in it? Well, we have ground squirrels and gophers. We're not supposed to have gophers up here, but we have them. My friend's cats have killed a few. Tora killed something. She didn't bring it in the house, but she had evidence hanging out of her mouth. Well, there are various strategies for preventing gophers from eating the roots of your fruit trees, but nothing is 100%. And when the trees first started wilting, I thought there must be nematodes in the ground in that part of the yard, so I treated that with neem oil, but it didn't really work. I think the peach tree might be coming back, and the apricot tree, I couldn't get a good look at it. I was busy whacking weeds, but it might be coming back too. I hope so. I miss the fresh fruit. Lita said years ago she had a cat that would go crazy over dried banana chips. Stunk when he digested them. He loved them. Yeah, we thought when I was a kid, we thought our cats were weird. They would chew on the rind from cantaloupe after we ate the fruit. Turns out cats like cantaloupe, but not my cat. Dora says, that ain't food. Leave me alone. Well, Deacon, yeah, a metal can, until it rusts away, it'll stop gophers. The one that works best for me is what a man who has worked in construction and now does inspections of various things like the soil. He said when he plants a tree, he digs an extra deep hole and puts in broken glass and broken ceramics all over the bottom of to keep gophers out. They don't rust away like metal, and they do deter gophers because they don't like to get cut. So I planted a tree. It's called a flowering pear. It does not give you fruit because the fruit's the size of a marble and not much pith inside. but it's pretty. And that's just my test project. At this point, I have to get someone else to dig the hole. I can't do it anymore. But we put all kinds of broken glass and broken ceramics in the bottom of the hole, and we'll see how well that works. Yeah, well, dreaded, that happened once. Violets are blue and roses are red. I brought you a gift. It's bleeding on the bed. Blackie killed a squirrel once during the winter. She brought it in and put it on my bed and proceeded to chew off the head. And she took off with the squirrel's body and left the head on my bed. And I couldn't help thinking of the Godfather scene with the horse's head on the guy's pillow. Well, I got the fireplace tongs, picked up the squirrel head, and tossed it out into the snow. And Blackie saw me do it, and I could tell she was saying, "Well, that's the last time I bring you a present." Well, the broken glass and ceramics don't harm the gophers. They are just smart enough to keep out when they come across it. It beats heck out of poisoning them or pumping gas into the holes to kill them. Especially, we don't want to kill ground squirrels. Oh, and I was really attacked on YouTube once. It said you can put mothballs down the hole. Oh, you're going to poison the birds that eat the gophers. Well, first off, birds don't eat mothballs. Second, gophers don't eat mothballs. They just leave because they don't like the smell. Criminy. Can't do anything nowadays. If I drink a glass of water, I'm depleting the reservoir. If I flush the toilet, I'm polluting the water. What am I supposed to do with it? And now our trash company, this is California, they've been pretty much forced to go on this crazy rule where you have 3 trash cans: the green one for yard waste, the black one for food waste, and the blue one for things that can be recycled. Only because of where we are and how the roads are and so forth, they cannot take yard waste. We have to haul our own yard waste, like grass clippings, to a special station where they accept it. So when I feed the cats, I have to wash the empty cat food can and put it in with the recycles. Oh, a ferret might get rid of gophers. I have heard an owl recently. I bet owls eat gophers. Yeah. So, like, I've had a compost box for years, and now they tell me I can't compost my yard waste or food waste or anything else. It'll put methane into the atmosphere. I thought they were concerned about CO2. Dreaded says, "Where I live, someone put a great sign on their front gate: trespassers will be composted." Okay. Oh, compost is the best source of good soil for the garden. And it's going to happen anyway. Unless you so thoroughly manicure your yard that it's all either dirt or concrete. Plants drop leaves and such, and it rots away into the soil. It just takes a little longer when it is not piled up into a box. It's natural. Oh, I have to quit composting. They said so. Yeah. And all the dead dead critters. There's lots of critters in these mountains. They end up as compost, whether we toss them into a box or not. I don't. I don't want dead animals in my compost box. You? No thanks. The earth apparently seems to be warming. Although sometimes it seems to be cooling. For example, the lack of sea ice at the North Pole. In August, yeah, high summer, midsummer. Midsummer is around August 7th. Yeah, it's warm in the summer. You go back to the same place in midwinter, December or January. Well, winter technically starts in December, but it starts getting cold in November. Okay, January or February, you look at the North Pole, it's completely covered in ice again. It's a natural cycle. Well, I don't have much of a carbon footprint because I'm poor and I can't get my fireplace cleaned. It's a wood stove and it costs a bloody fortune to clean the chimney. And it's unsafe to use it without cleaning it. It's been a few years. Ammonium methosulfohydroxate footprint. Oh dear, Freeman dreaded his Freeman. Yeah, I get it. It's when you suffer from gas. Excessive flatulence. Oh, I'm not finishing my cream of wheat because it has cat hair in it now. California is trying to ban gas. Apparently, in new construction, you have to go all electric. Our grid is already so insufficient that the cities like Los Angeles have rolling blackouts. It's like, okay, this neighborhood's power will be out on this day. That neighborhood's power will be out on that day. It isn't very good if you have food in your freezer or even your refrigerator. Up here on the mountain, we're hooked up to the wind farm. So even when the grid went down, oh, I don't remember how many years ago, maybe 20 years, we had power from the wind farm because the wind was blowing. But ordinarily, we depend on the grid. the wind farm isn't that reliable or productive. But lately, we've had power outages where the wind was not blowing and we simply did not have power for as long as 3 days. Uh, while they fixed the transformers and downed power lines. I have to hand it to Edison Company, though. Even though I basically hate them and they charge too much, they've been doing a very good job of strengthening the infrastructure on this mountain, replacing old power poles and transformers and cutting back or even cutting down trees that endanger the power lines. My social credit score would be in the tank. I question things, and that is no longer allowed. You're not supposed to ask questions, you're just supposed to do what you're told. And my gas is on a smart meter. I don't think the electric is, not yet anyway. Well, no, I take it back. It is. But it isn't the newfangled smart meters. It's an old-fashioned smart meter. And basically, these meters allow them to check your usage without physically looking at the meter. But they can't shut off the gas yet, not with this setup. I remember another person on this block had their gas shut off and they turned it back on. So the gas company turned it off again and put a lock on it. And they broke the lock and turned the tenant broke the lock and turned the gas back on. It was a running battle. They had to physically go to the meter to shut off the gas. Oh, I have a good supply of candles and battery-powered stuff. But I wouldn't have internet. I couldn't come on YouTube and rattle on. Oh, Harry Tuttle from Brazil, the movie Brazil, yeah. He went around illegally repairing things. Yeah, and they had to have HVAC systems because the air was so polluted. Yeah, I've seen Brazil a couple times now. Great movie. I always forget the director's name, but he's one of the greats. He should do a Philip K. Dick movie. But apparently, his Don Quixote was the last movie he planned to make. Witta says her smart meter isn't accurate. The Duke, I guess that's, I don't know if that's gas or electricity, but they'll email that they used more air conditioning when they haven't, but they did use the stove more. Yeah, the gas company sends me a weekly, is it weekly or monthly? I think weekly email comparing my usage of gas compared to other homes in the area. The problem is comparing my usage to vacant rentals and vacation homes. Well, of course, I use more than they do. Duke Energy. I guess that's electricity, but gas is energy too. Thank you, Niche. Terry Gilliam, one of the finest and most creative directors that ever has been. Well, Freeman, I don't get paid for movies, but maybe they'll let me write a screenplay and I'll get paid for that. I don't need 6 million, Freeman. 1 million would do nicely. Take a lot less than that to pay off my mortgage. Hi, Howard. Good to see you this morning. My chat room is filling up. Was Terry Gilliam in Monty Python? It's morning. I've had very little sleep. Maybe they'll buy my book for a movie. I think The Darkening of the Light would be a great movie. Oh well. So anyway, uh, yep. I used to think that if I didn't have the mortgage on my home, I could pay all my bills, but not the way they're going up. Gas, electricity, and water are all going up, 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 and my income stays the same. Oh, thank you, Freeman. Oh, I've tried to approach Gilliam and convince him he should film Ubik, but he doesn't seem to be interested. Oh, so he was in Monty Python. Okay. Along with some of the greats, John Cleese, Eric Idle, Michael Palin, Terry Jones, and Graham Chapman. Monty Python is one of those genius productions that nobody understands. But we keep trying. What kept me awake last night? No, I just was so wound up after being on YouTube till 1 in the morning, or was it 2? I think it was closer to 2 in the morning that I just couldn't wind down. But I woke up anyway because I have an alarm set for Wednesday mornings. Ah, Lord, what a day. It's chilly in the mornings, and then it gets hot during the day, and then it gets chilly in the evening. I really need to get more writing done. Weeds are a fire hazard. And I'll keep reminding you on June 21, I'll be on with Solaris Blue Raven. I think it starts at 10 p.m. It's either 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. I'll be on for 2 hours on her radio show, and you can listen to it online. I just don't remember at the moment the URL for the website. Let's see. Deacon says us Brits are natural comedians, but our sense of humor is very sarcastic and a bit dark. It goes over a lot of folks' heads, but when you get it, it's great. Niche, 9 p.m. with Solaris. K-Core, that's right. Thank you, Niche. Yeah. Solaris comes on right after. Does Tina Marie have her own show right before Solaris's show? Well, yeah, during the commercial breaks, I get to chat with Tina Marie. My stream went dark? What? Oh, well, last night, one of my listeners said it was fluttering or something like that, or stalling, but I'm not seeing that on my end. Viken, it's on the internet. You can't visit an American website. I think it's like this, kcoreradio.com. Let me see. Yes. https://kcoreradio.com. Anyway, at 9 p.m. Pacific time, July 21, a Friday. What? Okay. Freeman once dreaded is Freeman wants to know, what did PKD think of rock and roll? Oh, he loved all kinds of music, classical, big band. He would blast Jimi Hendrix, Purple Haze on the stereo, and Rolling Stones. Well, they were tame compared to Jimi Hendrix. Oh, and Janis Joplin. Well, and so forth. Art. He had a print of Picasso's Blue Nude, in which the nude woman is just a black outline against a blue background. And he had a print of a Modigliani nude back when voluptuous women were considered the most beautiful. Men didn't like skinny women, they wanted curves. Shows how standards and tastes have changed. And yet, if you look around you at the couples you see, whether they're married or dating, most men seem to choose the curvy women to spend their lives with, not the skinny ones. I've been listening to a lot of debate about Darwinian evolution and neo-Darwinism, because the discovery of DNA and the confirmation that it is a code, like an alphabet or a digital code, kind of really almost destroyed Darwinian evolution. In Darwin's time, and you can't blame him, with the microscopes of the day, they thought a cell was just a blob of gooey stuff inside a membrane. They didn't know about all the tiny little machines inside. Howard says curvy women provide heat in winter and shade in summer. Well, the Darwinians would say that men like women with wide hips because they're better suited to making babies. Beacon says normal women, any shape is fine as long as they are morally and spiritually sound. Okay. Well, apparently it is the Darwinians today do not stick with Darwin's original hypothesis. I don't like to call it a theory because it was never thoroughly tested. And things like the Cambrian explosion of all these vastly different forms of life suddenly appearing kind of called it into question. But now the neo Darwinians talk about how changes in your DNA are passed down to your children, and when they're beneficial, those changes keep getting passed down and the species changes. Well, yeah, the famous finches that Darwin got longer beaks and shorter beaks, skinnier beaks and thicker beaks, depending on the food supply that was available. But they were still finches. They didn't turn into giraffes. Um, anyway, yeah, if a change in DNA gets passed down, yeah, it can be beneficial or not. For example, the reason I have fair skin is because one or more of my ancestors had a broken gene that's supposed to give you pigment in your skin. And once it's broken, you can't get it back. It's a defect. Fair skin is a genetic defect. And yet we survive because humans have other advantages when it comes to survival. Oh, I don't think Darwin repented on his deathbed, Vegan, but he did um, express that the evidence just was not supporting his theory, but he hoped that in the future, with more excavation, the fossil record would support his theory. But it's been well over 100 years, I think over 150 years, and the evidence is not supporting his theory. But the neo Darwinists, or I think they call it the modern synthesis, they put more focus on DNA. The problem is the changes that we see in DNA are almost entirely broken genes, genes that no longer work. For example, the dogs like pugs with the short faces have a broken gene so that their jaw doesn't develop properly and give them a nice long snout. Um, white dogs and cats have a broken gene that's supposed to make them black or brown or orange. Orange cats, um, they have a broken gene, but not as many broken genes as white cats. Well, oh, Viken likes my theory of Nephilim and fallen angels tampering with pre Adamic man. I haven't thought of it as pre Adam. I'll have to. I know there's Genesis 6, and that's pre Noah, but post Adam. But, yeah, according to the flood story, we're all descendants of Noah, He's a descendant of Seth and Enoch of the Book of Enoch. Probably didn't write the Book of Enoch, but it's named after him. Um, I don't know. But, yeah, I believe there was a global flood. I believe that Noah had an ark. But I just can't believe that Noah was the only guy who had a boat. Let's see. Freeman says excavation. Try to remember 1% of all creatures that die don't leave a fossil. Yeah, but it's strange. My hypothesis is that those layers were laid down quickly in less than 100 years during the global flood, and the heaviest sediments fell to the bottom, and the lighter sediments were on top of them, and lighter still on top of them, and they're not really representative of millions of years. I think all those fossils are from animals that lived around the same time. Tora, what do you want now? Oh, there's new people in chat, so you gotta say hi. Oh, she's purring. Aw, little purring motor going. Rockabye kitty. On Great Granny's rocking chair. Yes. Oh, you're heavy. Little Tora got big and huge, didn't you? And you got your hair all over my face again. Okay, I got your treats. Party mix. Party, party, party. Yeah, party mix. Oh, you don't want that flavor, or you don't want it in that spot? Just come on, Mom. I want variety. Oh, what else have I got? What's this? Chicken flavor. No? I think she wants OUT. She knows that word. I don't dare say it. You can't. I'm not gonna let that happen till I'm off YouTube so I can go rescue you from the mean mommy cat. The stray cat that decided to have kittens under my house frightens Tora. She's very protective of her kitties. Oh, Darwin wrote poetry. Hi, Jonah. Welcome in to the chat. The Temple of Nature or the Origin of Society. Yeah, there's giant skeletons in the basements of museums. Now, the most ridiculous thing I've heard is about the Cyclops, the one-eyed giants. Oh, they found an elephant skull and they thought that the nose hole was for the eye. Were the ancient people so stupid that they didn't know that elephants have noses? It makes no sense. Those stories either saw or heard from people who did see giants that had only one eye. And you might say that's an old wives' tale, but so many old wives' tales turn out to be true. Like, oh, you cut yourself? Make a poultice from this herb and slap it on there. Turns out it works. You have an upset tummy? Make a tea from that herb. Turns out it works. My water's almost empty. I'll be right back. The mean mommy kitty is at the door because I haven't fed her kitties this morning. I will feed them when I want. She's like, feed my kitties, but don't you dare touch them. I have managed to pet them occasionally. Yeah. Well, whoever or whatever the fallen angels are, and the sons of God, the bad ones have messed with us. We are the worst adapted animals on this planet. We are the only, we might not be the only species that uses tools. We might not be the only species that makes tools, but we are the only species that cannot survive without tools. We're the only species that has to make clothing because we don't have fur or whatever. Our skin is too fragile. Now, in some tropical environments, the clothing is very minimal, but they do have it. There are places people can walk around barefoot, but not where I live. I have to wear shoes when I go out. Ooh. And our ability to use tools and make clothing and shelter has enabled us to live in extreme environments, but we are not adapted to any environment on this planet except by our ability to invent. Oh, Tora and mean mommy kitty are fighting through the door. The door is glass, so they can see each other. Yeah, you tell her, Tora. You just tell that mean mommy kitty. She wants to be fed, just like you. You know, we can make all the tools and shelter and clothing that we need, but what science, the hallowed halls of science are doing now is just horrible. Inventing food grown in a lab. They've been working up that for decades. Inserting human genes into mice so they can test various medications and, even worse, give them a disease and see what happens. They call them humanized mice. But our food especially is in great danger. Our cooking oils and salad oils are highly processed, and they probably are inflammatory. But darn it, there are some foods I want fried in oil. And the alternatives, the best would be bacon grease, or, well, second best maybe. The best would be lard, which you really can't get. If I remember correctly, lard is made from pig pork fat, so you can't really have it if you keep kosher. Can't have bacon grease either. Suet is made from beef fat, and tallow is beef fat, like tallow candles. I don't know. They say olive oil, cold pressed olive oil is good, but it does add a flavor to the food. But I don't eat fried food often, and I figure a treat once in a while isn't going to kill me. But I do kind of uh, limit the they call them vegetable oils. They're seed oils for the most part. Canola, corn, um, sesame. Sesame oil has a very distinctive nutty flavor. Ooh, Jonah says frying things in duck fat was kind of hipster trend for a while. There are some very um, traditional French dishes that are fried in duck fat. Oh, Vegan says you can still get lard in the UK. Beef fat is better. Well, with all the crazy fat Nazis, most of the meat in our grocery stores, the beef in particular, has all the fat trimmed off. If I could get just a cheap round roast or pot roast with all the fat, I could use that fat to fry food. But they trim it all off because of all these crazy low fat diets. Go ahead and eat your crackers and potato chips and cereals, but don't eat fatty meat. That's backward. Let's see. Dreaded says, have I tried flax oil? Flaxseed oil? I think so. The ones in the black bottle you have to keep refrigerated. Huh. Yeah, flax is made from flax seeds, flax oil. I, I'm getting tongue tied. It's still made by pressing the oil out of the seeds and then using a chemical process to remove the nasty flavors from it. Jonah says if I buy a brisket, I can get a good amount of fat. Just don't get the expensive ones that are trimmed. That's an idea. Well, you do at least get fat on a rib eye steak and some fat on a T-bone or a porterhouse. There's a fine line between T-bone and porterhouse. The T-bone has the most of the fillet cut off of it, and that's sold separately as filet mignon. The porterhouse has more of the filet still on the bone. Last time I was at a grocery store, at least a month ago, I was at the meat counter looking at ribeyes, and they had two sections, one with the bone and one without. Well, I want the bone so I can simmer it and make beef broth when I'm done with the steak. Problem is, it's like $20 for a 1 pound steak. Um, Before COVID, it was like $7 or $8. It's more than doubled. Yeah, I save bacon fat. I like eggs fried in it. But sometimes, if I'm going to make like a fried egg sandwich, I'll use butter instead. When I was in at the junior college for an entire school year, almost every day, I'd get lunch from the cafeteria and I would get a fried egg sandwich and a bottle of orange juice and have that for lunch. It was cheap and it was nutritious and it was good. So there I was in the embryology lab studying chicken embryos and eating a fried egg sandwich. You get to a point where it doesn't bother you. Okay, Witta. Oh, Beacon wants to know if Witta's avatar is a chocolate sweet. He's getting hungry. Oh, it's hot cocoa. I haven't had hot cocoa in ages. Mom used to make it rarely, but when she did make hot cocoa, she used the cocoa powder and a little sugar and milk. Back when milk actually had fat in it, whole milk used to be 4% fat or a little more. Now it's 3%. The fat Nazis are as bad as the salt Nazis. Oh, Deacon thought it was a Rolo. Ah, chocolate covered caramel. That's good stuff. Freeman has to drink his coffee with the liturgy. Okay. Yeah. If you cut your salt too much, first, your body needs sodium, especially in your blood, to help transport nutrients and make your enzymes work. But you're also cutting out the iodine that they add to salt. So if you don't eat a lot of seafood, you could end up with a thyroid problem because you cut out salt from your diet. Okay, and Dreaded says it is by caffeine alone that I set my mind in motion. It is by the beans of Java. Hi, Morgan. Oh, and that makes the juices of Folgers. I gotta type hi, Morgan. Let the thoughts acquire speed. Folgers used to be my brand, and well, first it was U-Band, then it got too bitter, so I switched to Folgers, and then I didn't like Folgers, so I got Taster's Choice. And nowadays I try to get the organic, fair trade, mountain grown, and all that, but sometimes it's just too expensive. And right now I'm on instant because I have to clean the coffee pot. Not one of my favorite jobs. Uh, oh, wow. You're fans of Dune. Okay. People don't seem to get it, and that's why I like the first Dune movie better than the second. They don't seem to understand that, at least in the novel, your hero is really a bad guy. Oh, hi, Peter Johnson. You're all rolling in. Love my chat room. Love all of you. Oh, man. I'm too old to be getting by on 4 hours of sleep. Especially after being on YouTube half the night. I have more millions of weeds to whack and rake up and bag up. And now our trash company doesn't take yard waste. You have to haul it to a collection center. So I'll have to get someone to haul it for me. Yeah, Dune was, at least in part, based on the rise of Islam in the Middle East, the origin of Islam. But you know, I keep forgetting the hero's name, but he gets so deep into the drug that he becomes evil. Freeman says we get enough sodium. I don't know. If you use enough salt to make it taste good, you're cool. Just don't overload with salt. And yes, you also need magnesium. So these salt substitutes generally have potassium and magnesium. So I'll occasionally use that instead of the sodium chloride salt. They make these salt substitutes for people with high blood pressure and other health problems. Oh, yeah, Paul Muad'Dib. Thank you, Morgan. He doesn't start out bad, but the drug makes him bad. Your Beacon's Jesuit friend said Islam was created by the Vatican. I'm not sure the Vatican existed when Muhammad was alive. Let me see. What was it? Around 700? Let's see. Might have been earlier than that. Okay. He died in 632. Born in 571. So I don't think there really was a Vatican that far back. Oh, yeah, he is the Quetzalcoatl Haderach. Quetzalcoatl? I can't pronounce that first word right. Forgive me, it's been about 3 decades since I saw the movie, and even longer since I read the book. Phil would get a book that he was supposed to read and make me read it and explain it to him. Well, about halfway through The Exorcist, I ripped the book apart and threw it in the trash. It was too disturbing. So, of course, I spent most of the movie, at home on, I don't know, TV, cable TV, I think. I spent most of the movie leaving the room and not watching. But I read Dune, and it's a huge, long, 1,000-page novel. Huh. At Sequentia says Dune was just a big advertising campaign to make the spice look good and find its market. Well, I think what Frank Herbert probably was thinking of would be the assassins, the hashishim, who would get high on hashish, dance as whirling dervishes, and then go out and kill people. Hashish, it's made from the marijuana plant, but it's usually mixed with opium. You wouldn't think that opium would fire you up to become a whirling dervish and then go kill people. Oh, poor Morgan saw The Exorcist when he was 13. Oh, you looked out your bedroom window to watch it on the neighbor's TV. I remember that trick. Thought you were convinced you were possessed for 3 days, terrified. Oh, well, most of what happened in that movie isn't real. They made it up. But yeah, a true demonic possession is horrible. Now, the Catholics see the exorcism as a battle between the priest and the demon, but well, especially the Jesuits see it that way. But actually, that it's the power of Christ that expels the demon, and the possessed person has to want to be freed. Father Malachi Martin talked about perfectly possessed people who did not want their demons banished, exorcised, canceled. I think that might describe my mother, the devil's sister. Beacon says he's seen exorcisms in real life. Yeah, that stuff is real, but not the stuff in the movie. The movie is The Exorcist. Now, have a DVD of an exorcism movie. Here we go. It's with actors. It isn't a documentary, but it's based on a true story. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Can't see that too well, and I got to point it at the camera, not the screen. Based on a true story. And some really awful things happen, but her head doesn't spin around. She doesn't vomit pea soup. Kwisatz Haderach translates roughly to shortcut. Didn't know that at Sequentia. Oh well. Anyway, one of the best movies I saw was on PBS, Public Broadcasting System, Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. Well, she wrote the novel. And it kind of reminds me of exorcism. The man has dreams that come true and he keeps dreaming about terrible disasters. So he goes to a psychiatrist and she is convinced that he isn't crazy. His dreams do come true. So she influences him to dream about good things. And so she ends up wealthy and so forth, uses him to benefit herself. It kind of reminds me of that one episode in the Twilight Zone movie. The original TV episode was The Monster on something street. Bill Mumy played the little boy who could make things happen by simply saying them or thinking them. In the movie version, this school teacher meets the little boy and decides that she can have him create rainbows and beautiful land. Okay, Freeman says the assassins and the Mamelukes and Islam in general just makes effed up people. Real big on victim shaming. Well, Islam as practiced today in I have to be careful what I say on this. So is kosher food. Kosher food is evil. I'm not convinced that it's nutritious. In Afghanistan, the police basically killed a woman because one strand of her hair wasn't covered by her headscarf. Now that's evil. Oh, Angus, yes, with Asian foods, there's a lot of sodium, but not necessarily iodine unless you're eating seafood. Now, although I am not a doctor, The doctors I've consulted are saying, yeah, a deficiency of sodium is worse than having too much. And the iodine deficiency that you get if you're not eating seafood and not using salt can be really disastrous for your health. I'm not saying load up and maybe get a big rock, that pink Himalaya, overdo the salt. But if you want a little salt on your egg or your steak or whatever you're eating, vegetables too, it enhances the flavor. It's much healthier than MSG. And just salting to taste, a little bit of salt, isn't going to kill you. And there's questions about whether it gives you high blood pressure. There's studies that show quite the opposite. Oh, Jewish exorcism, Freeman says. What are you still doing here? Get out of here. Yeah. Well, as a Christian, we have to say the power of Christ compels you, because we are not to presume to have godlike powers. But yeah, I bet the Jewish exorcism works. Peter says he uses a salt lick. Well, as long as you aren't like chomping down on the whole thing, it probably won't kill you. Yeah, at Sequentia, it does sound like a New York exorcism. I dated a man from Queens, and Joel spoke a little Yiddish. But I've learned that if I use Yiddish phrases in front of Jewish people, they're insulted because I'm not Jewish. I have no business using their language. Cultural appropriation. Okay. Well, I learned German and I'm French. I'm not Indian, so I don't use a lot of it. But oh man, or two of soy sauce gives it such nice flavor. Oh yeah, fish oil. A lot of Asian foods have damages of soy sauce. Mainly, they have a lot of salt. I switched from Kikkoman to La Choy because the Kikkoman was too salty for me. And I love salt. I'll eat salt straight from the salt shaker if I feel like it. And soy in excess is bad, especially for men. That's right, Angus. Um, soy, the female hormone. Men, it can kind of feminize their bodies if they eat a lot of soy, like edamame and tofu and soy sauce. And in women, it can screw them up because it is not the same as your natural estrogen. Oh, Angus, most Jews love hearing Yiddish from anyone. Well, the only word I remember is probably a cuss word. It's shyster. If it means what I think it means, well, not a cuss word, a profanity. Oh, MSG is really bad. It has tons of sodium, monosodium glutamate, and no iodine. But man, it makes things taste good. But the thing is, Salt is almost as good at making things taste good. Oh, RW is here. He says the way soy sauce is manufactured is horrifying. Oh, in ancient times, or not so long ago, really, it was made pretty naturally, but not now. It's made in factories. Um, there's something about Khazarians being. I do know that when Americans think of Jews, what we picture in our minds is Eastern Europeans because especially right before and during World War II, a lot of European Jews fled. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because the Nazis were killing them, and many of them came from Eastern Europe. They were also fleeing the Soviets. So, post World War II, we had many Eastern European Jews come because of the Soviet Union's expansion into Eastern Europe. The Soviets hated Jews as much as the Nazis did. I think it was. Sorry. I think it was an excuse to steal their wealth. The idiotic Europeans had told Jews, you can't own land, you can't be a farmer, you can't enter this line of work or that line of work, you can't be a blacksmith or a carpenter, pretty much anything that involved actually working, mucking the stables. So what did they do? They became shopkeepers, doctors, and lawyers, and began to prosper. And the people who'd been oppressing them, people who called themselves Christians, but they really weren't, were jealous. Yeah, Kazakhstan. Well, Persia was a Jewish kingdom. Remember the story of Queen Esther, where Haman was hoisted on his own petard for being evil and trying to kill off all the Jews? Yeah, much of Eastern Europe was primarily Jewish before these. Angus says his grandmother's family fled Russia. It scrolled, I lost it. Fled Russia around World War I, escaping both white and red Russians. Yeah. Oh, the land of Borat is Kazakhstan. You know where Kazakhstan is where the Cossacks came from. The famous, supposedly Russian warrior. And Nietzsche is back, the cricket guy. Um, it's published that Jesus's uncle, Joseph of Arimathea, was trading for tin from Cornwall and, trading goods from the Holy Land, probably things like dates and wine and stuff for tin from Cornwall. Tin was very important. It was used to make bronze. I'm not sure whether it's used in brass. I think brass is copper and nickel. Anyway, tin and copper would make bronze. And when the Christian missionaries first came to London, on the site that is now St. Paul's, so the tradition goes, there was already a chapel, and they reported that it was built by Christ's hands. So it's possible Jesus visited England with his uncle. Beacon has to go. Things I say. Anyway, it's time to feed the cats, and I have been on for 2 hours, so it's probably time to go. Thank you all for listening, and have a great day. Great being with all of you is good. There were 2 movies of that one, I think, but the one made by PBS is good.